welcome to Take a Mulligan podcast. And I'm Kenny, and I'm here with my brother Brian. And we have a special guest tonight, Sam Green. And Sam Green and I met up about 6 months ago now, probably almost, right? It's probably early January, February, something like that.
Yeah,
And about that time, right?
yeah.
And Sam came out. So you came out to our church. You came out to LCBC church, and that's how we connected. But Sam has a great story because you got a lot of great stories. But something I wanted to talk about tonight, and that was you walked the Appalachian Trail, and there are very few people that can say that they did that. So that's just wild. So, what made you do it? Like, what inspired you to take how many thousand miles is it?
So the AT is the year I did it. It changes by a few miles every year, but the year I did it, it was 2,197.4 miles.
Wow.
And
And
just to
then
clarify, this means you walked the entire, not just part of it.
the entire, yep. I skipped a 50-foot section in Tennessee, I think, because of hurricane damage from Hurricane Helene. But other than that, I did the entire thing. No skipping, no cheating, no driving in a car, none of that. No.
Wow.
And that's only part of what you do. Like that's not including all the town walking, like walking from the trail to town for resupplies, for food, for showers, and I went to New York City on a side quest. I did a lot of walking there, a lot of so realistically I did more closer to I would say 2,700 miles, but yeah so, but the AT is done. Yeah, about 2,200 miles.
Wow. So what was it like to prep for that? Like, what was your? Did you plan this out like years in advance, or did you just like wake up one morning and say I'm going tomorrow? So what was that like?
So we got to start from the beginning. It was a lifelong dream. I was in seventh grade Mrs. Silikowski's science class, and there was a day where she didn't want to teach. I tell you, and so she popped in a National Geographic VHS, and it was about the Appalachian Trail. And like from that moment on, the seed was planted, and I would go through phases where I would like obsess about it and then I'd forget about it. And then around 2014 or 15, I started seeing YouTube videos about it. And like for some reason, Facebook was pushing the algorithm, the Appalachian Trail onto me. And it kind of reignited the spark. And I started slowly accumulating gear and testing gear and reading books about the trail and studying it. And I left everything in 2020 and I actually attempted the trail in 2020. And then I was out there for 35 days and COVID happened. And we all got forced off the trail. The Park Service, they said if they caught us out there during COVID, it would have been a $500 fine and you could get arrested. And
Out in the open.
yeah, there was a lot. I hiked about, I think 200 and something miles. And yeah, and it was foiled in that trip. And, but after that, it was still in my head. Like I spent 5 years thinking, did COVID ruin the hike or did I actually ruin the hike? Because I could have just kept hiking, and hid whenever I saw anybody, and like, so 5 years, that question kind of just floated around my brain. Like, was it me? Was it COVID? I don't know. And, so I already had all the gear. I knew everything there was to know about the Appalachian Trail. I knew how to hike, and I did a lot of like local hiking, just day hikes, walking up the hills of Shamokin. Some of those hills in Shamokin are like but they have stairs on them,
Yeah.
and but none of that was able to prep me for what the trail actually was. So
What do they tell you to bring? Like what do they recommend? Like, okay, your day one, what should you have on you?
So day one, you have too much stuff day one actually, but day one, it's just my pack, my tent, sleeping pad. I started January 1st, which is not recommended. Normally people start in April. But I wanted to just avoid the crowds and kind of be alone. And so I started with all my winter gear. I had a Canada Goose jacket, about 5 layers of clothes. My pack was about 46 pounds when we
Wow.
started. I don't have the pack I started with because it broke and I had to get a replacement. Actually, I went through 3 packs on the trail. The one I bought back in like 2015 that I loved, but I bent the frame and it was unusable. So they sent me a warranty pack, which ended up being horrible. Couldn't wear it. And then this is the pack I finished with, which is a Hyperlight pack. And this weighs about 2 pounds by itself. And then it has all my gear in it, my sleeping bag, my tent, etc. And then I got a little bougie and I started carrying a foldable chair so I could sit anywhere on the trail. And so that, but in the beginning, everyone starts with too much stuff, too much food, too much gear. I was carrying like 4 pairs of socks, 5 pairs of underwear. And once you're out there and you become a dirty hiker, you realize I only need 2 pairs of underwear, 2 pairs of socks, and 1 pair of clothes. And so, as you go along, it gets lighter. So I started at 46 pounds and I ended at about 25 pounds.
Wow. That's a lot of
Yeah.
shedding.
You really figure out what you need when you're out there. You don't need a book. You don't need a notebook. And honestly, if I wasn't a vlogger, I carried 5 pounds of batteries and filming equipment. I could have even made the pack lighter by the end of it had I not filmed it, and yeah. So, but
Now,
yeah.
what have you done with the videos you've taken? Did you post them somewhere? Are they like on YouTube or anything?
They're on YouTube at Wander
Okay.
with Sam under Appalachian Trail 2025 through hike. And actually my 2020 hike is in there too. And I've done a couple other adventures. Like I've walked from New Jersey to Illinois. I did that in 2021. And then I started at Sandy Hook, New Jersey, which is right by your church actually, Brian. And I dipped my toes in the ocean and I started walking west. And then in January to cross California. And so I just like to walk. I guess.
Like Forrest Gump here.
What do you just walk across the Pennsylvania and Ohio Turnpike to get into Illinois, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Route 40. I think it was mostly Route 30 and Route 40 all the way. And
Wow.
yeah, there was some days where I was just walking. People would be leaving for work and I'd see them coming home and I'd still be on that same road. And that was for weeks. Weeks I did that. Yeah, that
Wow.
that adventure was crazy. I was in USA Today and uh, Asbury Park Press and the news, and it was just that adventure was insane. I don't know why it turned into such a big deal, but I was just walking. But the Appalachian Trail though, that was the one that like really changed my life. It changed my everything. It changed my outlook on life. It changed like the way I view like worldly items and possessions. It changed like my faith. It just everything on the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail changed everything for me. And now that I'm back in an apartment, I think like, God, do I really need a couch? Do I need all this stuff? Like do I need my stuff back in Pennsylvania? And that's because of the Appalachian Trail. Because you you live out of a backpack for 10 months, you
Yeah.
really realize what you need, and there was someone at the new church that said to me, they said, Jesus and the disciples were through hikers too. And I said, they really were. They
For
hiked
sure.
in the wilderness town to town and they,
Yeah.
they couch surfed and they moved on to the next place and they talked, they spread the word. And
Yeah.
So,
For 3 years, pretty much.
yeah, they just had the clothes on their backs as well, and that was it. They had the basics, and that's through hiking. It's a pilgrimage, and it's wild. I met thousands of people from all walks of life, all trying to just find some kind of peace or some kind of happiness that they weren't finding in their everyday life, and people that were out of college didn't know what to do. People that just got out of the armed forces services. People that were retired, and just all walks of life, just trying to figure it out. And yeah, yeah, trying to
What was
find
it
God.
like? So you traveled from the south and you went north.
I did.
So how long did you walk before you hit like bad weather?
So well, so yeah, I started January 1st in Georgia at Springer Mountain, and then you walk towards Maine, Mount Katahdin in Maine, and the first like 5 days of the hike, just perfect weather. The day one, it was a little chilly, but I was in a t-shirt. Great weather. I slept great. The first couple days were beautiful. Sun was shining. Great hiking. We're all and then all of a sudden it started snowing and it didn't stop snowing.
Mm.
And then sometimes it would rain and snow. And the weather went from like a really nice 60 degrees to like 30s.
Oh
And then by
man.
the time we got to Tennessee, it was in the single digits. And we had one day it was -5, and that was brutal. It was like -5, and we slept outside. And then 2 days later, it was -6, and we said, "Nope, we're going to town. We're not doing this again." And yeah, it was brutal. I can laugh about it now, but when you look back, it was really dangerous to try to
Yeah.
sleep in that kind of weather. And you know, yeah, the weather got really bad in Tennessee around the Smoky Mountains. It was like 15 degrees, and it was a torrential downpour, and we were shivering, and we couldn't get off the mountain. We got to a road, and we were trying to hitchhike down to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and no one would pick us up, and we couldn't get cell phone service to call anybody. And um truck driver, the guy who I was hiking with, he's like, "All right, we got to sleep in the bathroom." And I said, "You got to have a little bit of faith, man." And the next car stopped and picked us up, and they were from New Jersey. And yeah, it was very funny. But actually, but in that storm, a lady died 3 miles from where we were. We didn't know, obviously,
Wow.
but that just, and yeah, she died because of the elements, and
Wow.
that should be a little like how dangerous it could be, and like I said, you're going from 65 degrees, beautiful t-shirt, to negative temperatures and snow. Like, there was some snow drifts in the Smoky Mountains where we were hiking through like 4 feet of snow, like
Oh my
just
goodness.
climbing over it. I stunk into a snowdrift, and it went up to my belly button, and I was trying to climb out, and both my shoes came off, and then we had to dig out my shoe.
Oh man.
So
So
that's all on YouTube. It's good times.
so you talk about we a lot. What's it like when you started out? Like, did you just meet people and hung with a certain group, or was it different people throughout the whole thing, or was there a small group that kind of stuck together for all those kind of elements?
So out on the Appalachian Trail, you develop something called a tramily, which is like a trail family. And so when I started, I met right at the beginning of the trail. I met this retired guy from Ohio named Truck Driver. He was a retired truck driver, and we get trail names out there. By the way, my trail name was Toasty, because I accidentally melted a pair of shoes on a campfire, so they started calling me Toasty. Toasty Toes, actually, but we dropped the toes part. Too many questions, but so truck driver and I, we hiked alone for, I don't know, the first 2.5 months, I guess. and
Oh
then
wow.
hikers that had perfect snow-free weather caught up to us. And then I had just a kind of like a group of people that I hung around for a couple hundred miles. But you meet thousands of people. You meet people, I did about 17 miles a day, but there's people that'll do like 25, 30, 40 miles a day. And those people kind of flock together. And then I kind of stuck around the people that were more my speed. And you find your people out there. Like there's a saying out there that the trail provides. And the trail always will put you around the right people or give you what you need. And God provides, really, but they say the trail provides. And but you'll never be alone out there. That's the thing. I mean, you can be alone if you want, but you'll always find people that you either get stuck with, or there's people that just hike your speed and you can't get away from them. And then one day you're like, we're friends now, and get stuck in a really bad storm together. And the trail has shelters, which are just like three walls and a roof, like little lean-tos that you could sleep in. And one day there was this kid ET. We got stuck in like a shelter, and that was it. We hiked together for 300 miles after that.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah, actually, yeah.
What's the trails actually like? Are they all well defined and marked, or is there a lot of rugged, unmarked territory that you're just going in the right direction, hoping you're still following along?
So from Georgia to I want to say like Vermont, beautiful. Like the trail is clear, uh, really, really marked. Even in all the deep snow, we only lost the trail like one time. Um, Even in all the hurricane damage, they had the trail marked and cleared. There's networks of volunteers up the whole entire trail that just maintain it. And yeah, it was really great. It got a little like hard to follow up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains, because they don't mark it as well, because they don't want to like destroy the alpine like mountains with a bunch of markings. So it's kind of hard to find your place up there. And there's a couple fields in Vermont that got overgrown. So I was walking through like neck deep um,
Oh man.
uh, mush, and that was actually, out of all the things I experienced on the trail, all the crazy experiences, all the danger, all the ticks, the bears, the crazy people, it was walking through that neck deep brush that almost made me quit, because it was terrible. It was sharp. It was full of bugs. You couldn't find the trail. When you see like an overgrown field, you think, I'm just going to go skip through that. No, you can't, because it makes you all bloody, and it was a
Oh
terrible
man.
experience. So, but other than that, yeah, the trail is it's smooth. And there's some hard areas like Lehigh Gap in Pennsylvania, where it's really steep and you actually have to climb up it. And there's a couple areas in the White Mountains that are really steep. But most of the trail, once you get to the top of the mountain, it's surprisingly flat. Like Pennsylvania, it was mostly flat, and New Jersey, all that. It was pretty easy hiking. When you're driving through those mountains, you look up and you think, "Oh man, they're way up there," but it's not bad hiking on top of them. And yeah, yeah, the trail is pretty open too, and it's hard to miss. So many people use it. It's yeah,
And is
yeah.
there a well-defined starting and ending point so you know when you're at the finish?
Oh yeah, yeah. So at the beginning, Springer Mountain, there's a plaque on top of the mountain. It says Springer Mountain, you follow these things called white blazes on the trail, and they're just little paintings on the tree. They're 2 inches by 6 inches, and as long as you follow them, yeah, you could make your way all the way to Maine. And there's one about every 50 feet on the trail, and if you can't find one in front of you, you just look behind you and see if you see one, and that way you have an idea if you're on the trail. And they'll tell you when to turn, where to turn. And there's actually a map. There's an app on Google Play in the iStore called Far Out, and that tells you where every place to sleep, every water source, every town. It has phone numbers in it for shuttle drivers, or
Oh
it
wow.
tells you the best places to hitchhike. There's people on the trail called trail angels, and they're people that help hikers and they ask for nothing in return. And those people some of them will let you sleep in their house. They'll feed you. They'll give you rides to town. We had this one trail angel, and he gave us like a 45-minute ride, and we tried to give him money and stuff, and he wouldn't take anything from us. He just like, and in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of that too. Around the uh, I can't Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah, there was a lot of people down there that they'll just let you sleep in their house. You could be anybody, they're just happy to help hikers get to Maine. And uh,
Wow.
being on YouTube, I experienced a lot of that. I had a lot of people that were just r- ready to help me get to Maine. They were watching my story the whole time, and they were like, "We're going to get this guy to Maine no matter what. If we have to get out there and push him, we're getting him to Maine." So yeah, I was very blessed with the help I received. It's
Now, do you
great.
know how many people that you started with or that you encountered did the entire trail like you did? Was there many that did that?
So I think somewhere around 4 or 5 thousand attempted last year. Um, Out of all the hikers, I was tag number 6. Um, and then on January 1st, I think 16 of us started. And then in all of January, it was like 20. But out of all the January people, only 4 people made it.
Wow.
And um, by the time I got to Maine 3 days before the end, before it closed for the season, and I was tag number 848. So out of all those people, not a lot of people make it. I think they say like 20 or 25% of people make it
Hmm.
to the and I was
Is there
slow. I
is
was out there for 10 months.
yeah, that's
Some people
long.
do it in like 6.
Is there
I
a certain part of the trail that a lot of people like give up on, or because it's difficult, or just the terrain, or is it all scattered and sporadic as far as where people bail out?
It's all sporadic. There's a lot of different reasons. Like, there's a guy actually going through Pennsylvania right now who helped me a lot, and I'm trying to get down there to help him. But he was thinking about quitting because his tramily split up, and the girl he was hiking with got poison ivy, and she quit. And he said the heat is killing him, and so I told him, I said, Joe, you made it all the way to Pennsylvania, which is the halfway point. I said, you should take a few days off, relax, because they say never quit on a bad day out there. You only quit you're supposed to quit on the best day ever. And that's how you know you really want to quit. Like when I quit the road walk in Casey, Illinois, I waited 3 days until I had the best day on the road ever. And that's when I said, okay, I still want to quit. It's time to go home. So I said, Joe, take a few days or maybe skip ahead a few hundred miles and come back to avoid the heat, because in Maine it's still cold. So you go maybe skip up to Maine and then walk back to Pennsylvania, which is called a flip flop through hike. And so basically, everyone quits. Everyone has their reasons. I met a lady in New Hampshire. She quit because she got sick from a mosquito. I met a lot of people who quit in Connecticut because of Lyme's disease. Um, but a lot of people, most of the people quit in the first like 200 miles, I want to say. Um,
Wow.
and it's really not so much because of the trail. Now, when you're hiking, you're always going to be in pain. Like you're always in pain. Your feet are always going to hurt. Your back's always going to hurt. Your shoulders hurt. Everything hurts. You know, aspirin is your best friend. Uh, resting, relaxing. You know, it's but the part that people find, the reasons people quit don't always have to do with the trail itself, like the physical aspect, because the hiking, in reality, it's just walking in the woods. It's not like you're climbing Everest every day. You know, you really are just walking. The part that people struggle with is the routine of it, like the grinds. You know, when they dream about the through hike in their head, they think it's going to be this like great thing where they're going to be camping every day and looking up at the stars and having campfires and roasting marshmallows, and it's not like that. It's a grind. You wake up, you eat, you hike. You know, you basically your whole life is just the grind of getting to Maine. It's not like a leisurely hike. Like I look back, I had some great, fantastic memories, but every single day my brain said Maine, get to Maine, get to Maine, and that was it. And that's where people get lost in it, because they hike 200 miles and then they think, oh my God, it took me a month to get 200 miles. They say, and then how am I going to do this for 2,000 more miles? And then they start playing like, I have a nice warm bed at home. My wife is at home. My family's at home. I have food in the refrigerator at home. I don't have to filter water or dig a hole to go to the bathroom anymore, you know, and you start playing the mental mind game and you think all these comforts and I'm so uncomfortable out here. And you know, the trail is a very uncomfortable place. You know, you're always wet. You're always getting bit by bugs. You put on wet socks in the morning. You put on wet underwear every day. You know, you're getting rained on. Sometimes you have to set up your tent in the rain and then your sleeping bag's a little wet. You have to sleep in a wet, you know, and that's the part that makes people quit. It's the grind of it. So it's like not only did I hike a 17 to 25-mile day. Now I'm so tired, I don't even want to filter water and cook my dinner, let alone set up a tent or set up your sleeping bag. And so it's a grind. It's a grind. It's like a job. You clock in and you hike every day, and then you clock out, and you think you're gonna sit there and stare at the stars at night, but the reality is you're so tired and so much pain that you just want to get in your tent and go to sleep. And that's the part that makes people quit. It's not the trail itself. Is you know, like I said, the trail is, you know, it is, if you go out for a weekend, it's great because you don't get beat up and you see the flowers, you see the trees and everything. But when you're hiking, you're just hiking. You know, most of the time, I there was days where I just stared at my feet all day. And we had one thing in I think it was New York, and they said, "Did you see that bear?" And I said, "No, I didn't, because I was staring at my feet all day. I didn't see the bear." You know, and yeah, so
So,
yeah.
what would you say was the most challenging or most difficult part of the whole trip? I know you mentioned about the tall brush, but was that it, or was there something else that you would say, "Wow, this almost got me," or "This was the most difficult part"?
Um, the part that almost got me, well, okay, so the White Mountains in New Hampshire were the some of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my entire life. There's this place called Franconia Ridge. If anyone watching, Google Franconia Ridge in New Hampshire. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. Um, Words just can't describe how just perfect it was. And but the whole White Mountain Range was really, really hard. It was like you're going down to the bottom of the mountain, and then you're going back up like 4,000 feet, and it's like straight up. And then you go for a little bit, and then it's straight down, and then straight up, and then straight down. And the Park Service has these like rules where you have to sleep at a hut or you have to sleep at a designated campsite. and those are like 15-mile stretches. So not only is it like brutal terrain, it's long stretches too, and that's tiring. And they're huts. You could either work for stay, which you just did all that hiking. You don't want to wash dishes at the end of the day to sleep on a floor, or you pay $170 a night to sleep in this cabin with bad food and no showers, and yeah, so that the White Mountains were just physically demanding and yeah, just exhausting. But
Did,
the
did you go to
two
the
times
top of Mount Washington?
I did, yeah, yeah. You
Okay.
do hike Mount Washington. So, yeah, I climbed Mount Washington. I always laugh at people's bumper stickers that say this car
I
climbed Mount
drove.
Washington. I actually climbed it. Um, so my Mount Washington experience was I stayed at the hut up there called Lake of the Clouds, and I did a work for stay up there, and beautiful hut. But in the middle of the night, two of the kids got a stomach bug and they were throwing up and running to the bathroom. And so I was terrified of that because that's a hike ender. And so I left at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even say goodbye to anybody. I just got out of there. And it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds and fog. I couldn't see 1 foot in front of my face. And I got to Mount Washington and there was like the wind was whipping and there was like fog making my beard and everything all wet. And so I got off the mountain quickly because I started shivering. And I got off the mountain, I looked up and the sun came out, the sun was shining and the clouds cleared and everyone on Mount Washington had a crystal clear view that day. And so, yeah, my Mount Washington experience was, it was a flop, but I still did it and
Yeah.
it was a good experience. But, back to your question about, uh, like the thing that almost made me quit the heat. The heat is what almost did me in. I hate hiking in the heat, and I had one day, and it was actually the flattest 10 miles of the entire trail, but there was no water all day. And I had like that much water in a water bottle, and it had to get me 10 miles. And I had like no food. All the food I had to be cooked with water. So I had nothing to eat. And I got to this cabin and I was like dizzy and definitely heat exhaustion and dehydrated. And that was when I considered quitting, was that day. And it had nothing to do with the trail or anything. It was just the heat. It was like 110 degrees, 85% humidity. It was just a really, really bad day there was a heat wave and during that time, and every day it was like 105 degrees, and it was a really rough couple days on the trail. And yeah, I was heading through Cold Springs, New York, and I saw the train station, which is actually right on the Appalachian Trail. It's just a little wooden platform, and it says to New York. And I say, you know what? I'm going to New York. So I took the train to New York, and I sat in an air conditioned hostel for 4 days until the heat wave was over after
Good for
that.
you.
And they were like, you're crazy. And all the hotels in the area were price gouging hikers for like $200 a night, this and that. And the hostel was like $40 a night and it had air conditioning. And I said, you know what? So I saved all this money, had a great little side quest. And yeah. And uh, the other time I almost quit was I got attacked by bald faced hornets at the so Dartmouth College and New Hampshire, they have a place where you could camp if you're a thru hiker, and they had outlets by like the bandstand, and I went to plug in my chargers, and all of a sudden these hornets just attacked me, and I'm not allergic, but I got really like I guess they call it serum sickness. And I was down and out for like 4 days, sleeping in my tent. That I couldn't even move. I was just so tired and just so sick from that. And I kind of thought about going home in that moment, but yeah, I didn't. I pulled through. I said to myself, "You only have 200 miles left. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it." So I did it. So yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
now you said it was a spiritual experience too. Like you met some people, got into some weird conversations, I bet. And so tell us about some of that.
So okay, so that's kind of what led me back to the trail. It was September of 2024. I had a kettle corn stand on Route 61 right by LCBC at the plumbing outlet. And it was a slow day, and I was reading my Bible, and all of a sudden, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, while I was reading it like popped into my head, like AT. And I was like, okay, well, no, I don't really have time to do that. So then I was looking at some other hikes, like in England, there's Hadrian's Wall, where you could walk across England. It's like 10 days. But that would have cost me like $3,000 that trip, like flying, the room and board, all that. So then my brain went back to the AT, and I was like, should I do it? I have my popcorn business. It's in Shamokin. It's doing really well. And I don't know. It's just like I kept feeling this pull to go to the AT. Like everywhere I turned, I would see something Appalachian Trail related, or I'm driving through the mountains down in like Hamburg area, Pennsylvania, and like the Appalachian Trail signs would just like my eyes were like glued to them, And every time it was just, I don't know, it's just I felt like I was just being called to the trail. Like at the time, I was, my life in Shamokin was great. My business was doing great. I had a great little part-time job. I had a beautiful house down in Shamokin, and you know, on paper, my life was really, really great. But I felt just like something was missing. I felt in a way like I don't know, like soul sick. I felt like God was like telling me to do something, and I felt like every time I opened the Bible, like my brain would just go AT. I'm reading Genesis, my brain is thinking Appalachian Trail, and I think about that pretty often still, like because it doesn't happen anymore. Like when I read the Bible or I read, my books and all that, I don't think Appalachian Trail while I'm reading Chronicles, it's just
Okay.
like it's weird, and I just felt like I was just being called, and so I said, you know what, whatever, let's just go for it. And my lease was up, and I called my dad, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna reattempt the Appalachian Trail. And he's like, oh, you got your business, you have your house, you have this. And I said, no, I feel like I have to do this. I feel like if I don't do this, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life. It's gonna keep calling me, and I just have to get it out of my brain. I have to know if COVID ruined the hike or if I was just not capable of doing it. And so in November, I put all my stuff in a storage unit. I stayed with my dad for like a month. I put in my 2 weeks notice at work. I Kettle corn was wrapped up for the season anyway. It's just a seasonal job, and I flew down to Springer Mountain, Georgia with $1,558 in my pocket, which was,
Wow.
I knew that wasn't enough money to hike. I paid all my bills for 6 months. I paid my phone bill, my storage unit, my car insurance, all that. But as far as hiking money, I went down with $1,558. And I was betting on this. Thing called One More Day on the AT, and it's like a scholarship for hikers. And I was really praying I would get it, and stuff. And I was a runner up, and it was like a sure thing. And then on Albert Mountain in like North Carolina, I got the email saying I got denied that, and I was like, ah, man. but we'll get back to that in a minute. But so anyway, I fly to Georgia with no money in my pocket, barely, not enough to get to Maine. And I met this guy, truck driver, who happened to be from Ohio, and I started hiking anyway. And oh, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, all right. So I got denied this AT scholarship, and I'm standing on top of Albert Mountain, and I was having one of those moments where I was like pitying myself, and I'm like, come on, like God, I'm out here. You've given me this incredible hike so far. It's been hard, but and I went through so much. Like I ended up I was like 275 pounds, like really overweight. Right before the hike, I hadn't walked more than a mile in a few months, and I had no business physically being out there. Day 4 to day 8, I ended up getting gout in my right ankle, and then it went to my left ankle, and then I had gout in both ankles. And I was hiking. I hiked for miles in that. I was in pain. I was like, and then on top of that, I got denied the scholarship. And I'm like, God, what are we doing out here? And I was like, God, I said, God, what are we gonna do out here? Like you brought me out here. I'm on top of this mountain. I have no money. I'm freezing to death here. Like what? And I just had faith. That was it. And I tell people faith. I'll just have faith that everything's going to work out. Like if your cup is empty, God will fill your cup. And as long as you just have faith. And sometimes my faith is just reckless too, like blind faith. Like I can't even like I just know everything's gonna work out. Like when we were stuck in that rainstorm and we were about to get hypothermia and sleep in a bathroom together. I just said to truck driver, just have faith, man. And that car pulled over. Or, up in Massachusetts, I had been hiking for like, or I've been hitchhiking. It was for like an hour, just trying to get a ride off this mountain, and no one was stopping. And I was like, God, give me a break. And this car pulls up, and she goes, she got halfway down the mountain, turned around, came and picked me up and brought me back because she remembered a friend of hers who was a hiker saying how important hitchhiking is to hikers. And that her friend's voice was in her head, and she turned around and picked me up. And I actually got that one on camera. That's on YouTube. I'm literally on camera saying, "Give me a break," and she coming around saying, "You need a ride." And so I'm happy I got that on camera. But so anyway, I'm having this moment on Mount Albert, and I'm like, what are we gonna do, God? What are we gonna do? And I just kept hiking. I say, you know what? It's gonna work out. It's either gonna work out, or I'm gonna be calling my dad to come pick me up down in North Carolina, or I'm gonna be hitchhiking back to Pennsylvania. And 3 days later, I ended up getting monetized on YouTube. And just one night, I was at this like hostel called Rambling Roots, and this girl, her trail name was Top Shelf, and she said, you should try doing YouTube Shorts. They'll get you a lot of viewers. And literally overnight, I went from like 300 subscribers to over 3,000. And I've lost quite a few followers because of like praying on camera. I had a lot of people getting all lightning fingers on me, but I lost a lot of subscribers because of my faith, but that's okay. Uh, but she said, yeah, just start doing YouTube shorts. And 3 days after just saying, all right, God, you know what? That's it. I'm putting it in your hands, basically. I ended up my $1,500 in 1 month. YouTube started bringing in about $1,000 a month, and I just had just enough money every time. And it was like, say I ran out of money, um, I would get to a road crossing, and there would be people cooking food, and I just feel like God provided every single step of the way. There was a point in Vermont where I was down to like $40 and I had no food, nothing. And there was a guy who watches, met me at a road crossing, and he supplied me my next 5 days worth of food.
Wow.
And
Wow.
just like every step of the way, it was provided to me. And I feel like I was really, really blessed. And I feel like if it wasn't for that leap of faith of going, and that leap of faith of just continuing, even when I knew the odds were against me, like as LCBC up against a wall. Even when I was up against the wall, I kept going, and God provided, and that was it. And it was just faith. I just had faith and hope, and I just knew deep down inside, like I was out there for a reason, and I had people emailing me from my videos. Like I've had some wild testimonies. Like your videos literally saved my life. Your videos like inspired me. I have people like your videos have brought me back to God or brought me back to church, and I'm like, no, God just used me to get to you guys. That's it. I was just the tool,
Mhm.
um, but that faith has led me just incredible places. Like, um, and the whole trip, everyone I kept meeting was from Ohio, and I kept thinking, what is it about this trail and people from Ohio, and I felt like I was just getting called here to where I currently am. And there was a mountain up in, I can't remember where, but the date was around like July 23rd or so. And I stood on this mountain and I just surrendered. I surrendered to God. I said, you know what? I don't need any more proof. I said, my life is yours, and that's it. For the rest of my life, I just want to live for you. I want to do what you want me to do. And I prayed for some other stuff. I prayed for a good woman and stuff like that. And within 24 hours, this girl sent me a donation, and I didn't think twice about it, and this is my girlfriend Paige we're talking about here. And she was watching the YouTube videos the whole time, and the whole trail I was searching for this like woman on the trail. I thought I was gonna meet her, I said, God, you brought me this far, now bring me the rest of the way, man, and I was looking and just looking and looking, and I never found her. And randomly, one day in November, a month after my hike, this girl from Ohio, another Ohio one, messages me, and she goes, I've been watching you for 3 months now, and your hike was so inspirational, and I was praying for you the whole time. And I was like, it got crazy. Like I was binge watch because I had 300 episodes. And she's
Wow.
like, I was watching them just one after the other, joking about how you're going to be my boyfriend. And now here I am in Columbus, Ohio, her boyfriend, and it just, the whole trail was just one big leap of faith, one walk of faith. And, I started as just this sad, miserable, shell of a man. I was just so sad, so unhappy. I didn't trust God. I didn't have faith in God. I knew God was there, but my faith was just out the window. And as I hiked along, I got closer and closer and closer to God. And I listened to the Bible beginning to end on audiobooks. And
Wow.
last page of Revelation was on Mount Katahdin. The last mile is where I finished the Bible, and it was crazy just how it all timed out. It's like 78 hours of listening to that audiobook of the Bible, and it ended on the last day on the last mountain. And I feel like the whole walk was just God the whole time. And but the beauty in it is a lot of people go out there not believing, not trusting, not having faith, and by the end of it, they give the credit to God. And that's the beauty of the trail, because I don't think you're getting any closer to God. You're not going to find that much God in a church or in any, you can go wherever, but the wilderness, that's where you're going to find him. And that's where God is, because you could actually hear him in the wilderness and spend time with him. And you don't have all these frequencies and cars and jobs and you just go out there and you listen, and God's always talking. You just can't always hear him in your everyday life, and that's it, and but it was
Wow.
all just one walk of faith. I just knew I'd be taken care of out there, and I was the whole time. And I still am. So yeah.
That's wild. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I'll write the book one day.
You should. You should.
so,
So hey,
I'm tired.
so hey, it was neat to hear you. This whole faith journey culminated in your baptism a couple weeks ago, so that's really cool. So
Yeah,
congrats on that.
thank you. Yeah, and that's another thing. It was just like, the hike led me here, and the hike. Every day I figure out new ways. The hike is still the journey hasn't ended yet. I'm sitting right here in Columbus, Ohio, right now because of that hike. And it's amazing where the trail is still taking me. I was in a Columbus, Ohio REI, which is a hiking store, about a month ago, and I got recognized by somebody that I met. Yeah, yeah, and then I in the same REI, I bumped into a lady I hiked with in Virginia, and she
Wow.
lives in Indiana. She just so happened to be in that REI, and the trail is just it's still going. The journey is not over yet, and I could say I'm happy now. I gained some of the weight back, but you know, but no, I'm happy. I have a new outlook on life, new faith in God, and it's not over yet. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll southbound it. I don't know, but right now I'm just gonna just relax, I
That's
guess.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So hey, as you look back on your whole adventure, we're obviously on Take a Mulligan podcast and we talk about taking second chances. And so if you could do something different, a do-over, what would be a do-over for you?
If I could do it over, I would. So what I did was called a Nobo hike. I went northbound. And then there's southbound, which is going south, or there's flip flops where you could go one way, flip up, go the other way. I would have done what's called a yo yo, where I would have gotten to the end and hiked back to Georgia. And
Wow.
so if I could take a mulligan, that's what I would have done in hindsight. I wanted to do it the whole trail, but it was getting cold and snowy, and I just wouldn't have had the snow up in Vermont. I just wouldn't have been able to do it. I ended October 10th, and I would have I wouldn't have been able to get out of the Northeast. So,
Yeah.
but if I could do it again, I would have gone a little faster, got to the end earlier, and turned around and went back to Georgia.
Okay. Wow.
That, that would be my mulligan. But yeah,
That's good. That's good.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But
Well,
honestly, though, all things aside, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I think it played out exactly how it was supposed to play out, and
yeah.
that's it. And I'm thankful for it. So yeah, yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
hey Sam, it's been great having you here, and we're so grateful that you took your time out today to tell us about your adventures.
Yeah, thanks for
yeah,
sharing your inspiring story. It was amazing.
Yeah.
you're welcome. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you. It was a good time, and yeah, like I said, it's on YouTube. Wander with Sam, and I hope you can watch. And little disclaimer: the first 20 episodes, there's some cursing because I was really going through it. Uh, after day like 20, I stopped that completely. and made a vow to not curse after that. And so, yeah, if anyone goes to watch it, just say, if you're from my church and you go to watch, just know that that was
That's great.
the old me, But anyway,
Hey, well, if they do, it's great to watch your faith journey and process through the whole trip. That'd be pretty cool.
yeah, definitely, and it's not over yet, like I said. So, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. Well, thanks again. And hey, thanks for listening in on Take a Mulligan podcast.
Bye.
We know everyone can use a second chance or a do-over. So take a mulligan and try again. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Like, click, and subscribe.